So, our first review of the day is going to be for the film Haunted Mansion. This is a film directed by Justin Simeon. Justin Simeon, who is known for directing Dear White People and Bad Hair. This is a movie starring Lakeith Stanfield, Rosario Dawson. What is this movie about? Well, it's about a haunted mansion. Man, there's a mansion, it's haunted. There you go. That's pretty much the premise of it. You have Rosario Dawson and her son who they have left their homes, come to New Orleans, staying in this place, realize it's haunted. They leave, but they realize that the ghosts follow them wherever they go. So they just return back to the home, and then eventually get other people to come try to help them, with the haunting of this house. And then they end up getting also just staying at the house as well, because it's like, well, if the ghosts are going to follow me, why don't I just stay at this place and try to work together to come up with a solution to solve this kind of haunted mansion. So that's basically the setup here of this film. Rounding out other people in the cast, you have Tiffany Haddish here, who plays a medium. You have Owen Wilson, who plays a priest in this. You have Danny DeVito, who's a historian. You have also Jamie Lee Curtis, who's in this, who plays another medium as well. And this is based on a ride. It's a Disney film. This is based on a ride. Have you ever been to the Haunted Mansion ride? Have you ever rode that before?
A long time ago. But yes, I have.
Yeah. And they've, of course, they've done movies based on rides before. Disney did also Pirates of the Caribbean, which was a humongous success for them. They also did Jungle Cruise, which came out just a couple years ago, which I like Jungle Cruise. I was actually a fan of Jungle Cruise. One of my big surprises of the year. That was with The Rock and Emily Blunt. And this movie, it's kind of like a little bit of a step above something that would kind of be on Disney Plus, I feel like. It kind of has that feel to it. That they were like waffling, seems like back and forth, like, yeah, could it be on Disney Plus? Could it get released in theaters? Then it ended up going to theaters. And so far, I think this movie, good cast. It's got good chemistry between everybody. It's a light movie, maybe a decent family movie. I know they already did a Haunted Mansion movie back with Eddie Murphy. I've never seen that one before. Have you ever seen?
I have.
Okay. How was that? How was
that? That was a mid-2000s Eddie Murphy movie, which means it was very kind of daddy daycare, kind of child kind of comedy. It had a lot of cheesy special effects, and Eddie Murphy looked like he was sleepwalking through that movie. It had some interesting special effects, and I like some of the character actors in the movie. But overall, yeah, it felt very cartoony, even for the time. They could have honestly saved themselves a lot of time by just making an animated movie.
Yeah. And I wonder if you're going to say the same thing about this one, because a lot of the effects here, they look decent enough.
Yeah.
There's some kind of good ones here. There's some stuff they do with the ghost that look pretty okay. I like the whole Jamie Lee Curtis, like she's in like a crystal ball. I thought that was a pretty good effect, actually.
That was in the original too.
Yeah. So I like that. I thought that was a pretty good effect. So yeah, I think good cat. I think you have a good actors here, Lakeith Stanfield, who has kind of that very weird energy about him. Very offbeat type leading man that I think kind of works sometimes and things. So I think the chemistry is there. The jokes are solid. They're okay. I think it's a pretty decent kind of jokes there. Just overall, it's a kind of mediocre movie. I think it's just okay. It never rises to being great or just terrible. It's just kind of in that middle of just like it's okay. I don't think you need to really rush to go see it in theaters. I will tell you the product placement is there with this movie because they do a lot of calling out brands, and not even in that subtle of a way. Like there's a scene with Tiffany Haddish. She's like, "Why don't you write on my notebook that I got from CVS?" Or this candle. It's like, I got this candle from Amazon, like they just saying these brands, just pull it just out loud. And there's even a scene where they're eating Burger King and they have that label, that logo right in front of the camera to let you know that they're. No, it was Burger King.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And they have that logo just right in front of this. So it's like,
did.
I mean, the product placement is there with this. But I'll pass it to you. What do you think about Haunted Mansion?
Yeah. At first, you kind of get this nice narration over by Jamie Lee Curtis about death and what how one relates with it, and if you can move on past it, and if they're willing to step through the door and leave your grief behind. And honestly, the way it first started was actually kind of cute. It starts at a New Year's Eve, and the main character Ben meets this woman, what Alyssa,
Mm,
who he starts talking to, and they start having chemistry between each other. Ben is awkward but well-meaning, and Alyssa is a very charming young lady, and they keep talking together. And then it cuts to him years later, and he's just kind of a mess, and he doesn't really know what he's doing with his life. He's doing ghost stories, even though he clearly doesn't believe in any of it. And that leads Kent to, Owen Wilson to show up at his door as a priest, his father Kent, to ask him if he could look into a haunting of a house, and that's how he meets Rosario Dawson and her son, and gets involved in this whole thing. The premise is solid, but besides the honestly, I don't know if you noticed, besides the beginning of the movie and kind of the end, Louisiana doesn't have much to do with this movie. Like, there's
mm.
really not that much Cajun flair to it, aside from some of the housing, some of the areas, but they didn't really spend a lot of time outside that mansion. And I was kind of, if you're gonna base it in Louisiana, come on, let's get a little Creole in here. Let's get a little bit more flavor. And they could have just placed it anyways. It could have been anywhere, and not really missed that much of a beat. Uh, I thought the everyone does their job well enough. I thought the actor who plays Ben does a fine job. But he has a moment later in the movie where he's really trying to put on the tears, and it's all right. It's not Oscar award performance, but I do feel the emotion behind it that he's trying to go for it. Honestly, I think the two standout performances are Danny DeVito and Owen Wilson. Honestly, uh, they didn't really have a lot of great material, but honestly, just seeing those two guys, you can still get some laughs from it. Owen Wilson just says some stuff. And let's be frank, Owen Wilson isn't playing a character. He's playing Owen Wilson. Like, everything he says is based on Owen Wilson. There's a moment later in the movie where they're going through a tour, and the tour guide is talking about how this one person sat higher than everyone else because they wanted to be above everyone. Honestly, the guy is so petty. You almost got to respect it a little bit. He kind of got. And I was like, it gets me a little bit, but yeah, honestly, the best I could really say about this movie, it's pretty mediocre. The special effects aren't anything to really write home about. The plot isn't especially amazing or gripping, but I don't know. It reminded me of the older Disney Com original movies where it was okay, and it maybe and wasn't really doing that much other than being a pretty okay movie. But for an okay movie, it had quite a big budget.
Yeah. So the budget on this is $150 million.
Yeah, you need for $150 million, you needed more than an okay story.
That is a lot of money. I don't know. I mean, it continues Hollywood and these big ass budgets. I don't know where all
Mhm.
this money is going, because it's like you look at the cast. It's like
Yeah,
none of these people could cost that much money,
no,
really. I mean, and then you look at the effects. It's like these aren't really a lot of crazy
no.
effects that you're doing here. I
Honestly, with
mean,
a lot of trickery and a lot of makeup, you could have bumped that down to 20 million easy. Like,
yeah.
in camera tricks, in camera movements. Put down the CGI and use actual makeup, use actual artists, use puppetry, use a few other things. You could have made a fun kind of little cute scary movie for kids. There's not many gateway horror movies that we get to have. There's maybe like 1983's The Gate, or maybe like a few other like animated movies. And this could have been one of those where it's a nice kind of has horror moments here and there, but ultimately is a fun little film. And it tries, but it it's either not that good of a comedy, and it's not that good of a horror movie, so it kind of leaves mm, kind of like a medium kind of taste. It never quite gels together.
This would, I mean, if you really reduce the budget on this and maybe get, not so recognizable names, you could have probably put this on. It could have been like what was that movie, Halloween Town, or something like that, that would have been on like the Disney Channel, like a Disney Channel original, a movie that you could have put on there. and been something maybe for kids that, watching it, that, somebody of our generation probably would have known something like Halloween Town, or what was another one that would be similar. I'm trying to think of the name of it, but something along those lines of doing something like that, that you could have done. That wouldn't have, you didn't have to write this huge check for $150 million to put it on, to give it to them and put it in theaters. But it's just like you said, it's a big check for a movie that just is just okay, and that's really the best thing you can kind of say about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a lot of money for just a movie that is just okay, and that's the best thing that you can kind of say about it. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's really not a whole lot to say about it. It's just a decent enough movie. I don't think you have to go to the theaters to go see it. It's a solid cast, but I don't think they do fine. You mentioned some good performances, like Owen Wilson is okay in it. He has some good funny lines. I remember there's one line in it where he picks up an axe and he's like, "I'm gonna kill these ghosts," and it's like they're
Hmm.
already dead, and he says they're about to be deader. I thought that was kind of the way he delivered it was kind of nice. And Tiffany Haddish, they use
Hmm.
Tiffany Haddish, kind of what she does, her thing, to good effectiveness in this movie. I thought that she was kind of utilized very well in it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, the stories in it that try to get you to have some emotion in it. They're just decent enough. Like, I have the whole thing with Rosario Dawson and her kid, and she's a single mother, and the
Right.
kid is, he's getting bullied at school, so that makes you instantly kind of feel for the kid. It's like a,
Right.
very, it's like when you give a kid a dead parent, which actually he also has in this movie as well. It,
Spoiler.
yeah, yeah, well, whatever. But yeah, he's
Yeah,
he's got a dead parent in this.
he
And
never
every,
asked about that. That could have been like a hand, just a moment conversation. They're with everybody for a long time. That never came up.
Yeah, that's very true. And I mean, when you watch the movie, I mean, it makes sense why the kid is getting bullied. I mean, he's out here dressing like Jonathan Majors. He's
Oh
getting
my god,
fashion.
yeah.
He's wearing these, because I thought it was. I did think it was kind of set up going to be like a twist, like
Yeah.
the reason why they're dressed the way they're dressed, like Rosario Dawson. I thought it was going to be like a twist there, based on that,
They were
but
possessed or something, or is this or
or that they were already dead,
oh yeah,
and
no,
that.
that would have been a sadder, bittersweet ending, but that would have been actually pretty good too. But no, he just dresses like Carlton from Fresh Prince.
I don't even think Carlton dressed that fucking nerd. I mean, he dressing like he's in the 1960s, in the 50s or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah,
was like,
nah.
he's wearing bow ties and button down with a whole tweed jacket. It's like,
Yeah.
damn, bro.
He had that Texas collar holder as well. At one point, I was like, "What? Who? You
Yeah.
just let him go out there like that?"
Like, who's like, is he dressing himself like this? Like, yeah, I was like, okay. But yeah. So I just give it just a plain stream it for me. Would kind of be my thing for the movie there. What about you?
Yeah,
Final thoughts, right?
yeah. I kind of come around that area. It's a stream it. It's an okay movie. It has its moments here and there, and Owen Wilson and some of the actors, their deliveries are all right, but it never rises above the story and the moment to moment.
Yeah. And Lakeith Stanfield, Radiant from Maturity, had a question about Lakeith Stanfield. It's like, does he stand out at all? Because he's one of my favorite actors. He'd be my pick for the next Joker. He's just decent. I mean, I think he's just okay. I mean, he's fine. And when there's the emotional moments, I think he does an okay job at them. When it comes to like the main, also there's like a big main villain in this movie, which they get kind of a named actor to play him, which seems kind of really weird that you do that. I mean, there really wasn't no need to get a named actor to play that. Like, you could have really gotten anybody, because it's
Yeah,
mostly just all CGI role there. And you can't even really tell it's this person
right.
who's doing it. So I was like, well, that seems kind of strange there. Yeah, yeah. So 2 streamings for Haunted Mansion there.